Hey guys, and welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about my review of owning the GH5, the Panasonic GH5 for the last 2 years. So yeah, I bought the camera back in 2017, April I believe it was. I was one of the lucky to pre-order it early on, and I had the GH3 at the time, so I was upgrading from the GH3 and I didn't find it kind of necessary to upgrade to the GH4. I kind of thought about it for a bit. I watched a lot of reviews, and then when I found that the GH5 was coming out, it was sort of like a no-brainer for me, and I decided that the GH5 was the way to go. So obviously, I put a lot of money into it. This was my most expensive camera that I've ever owned. I used to have the 600D, and then I had the GH3, and then I moved on to the GH5. So for me, it was such a big step up, and I ended up getting it with the 12 to 35 Mark II, the f2.8, fantastic lens. But to be honest, I hardly ever use it anymore, but I'll come back on that subject a little later on. So what do I think of the GH5 after 2 years of owning it? Well, for one, I'm actually shooting this video on the GH5, and in fact, most of my videos on this channel of recent videos have been shot on the GH5. I absolutely love my GH5. I think it's such a beast of a camera for the price it is. You get a lot of features. You can shoot anamorphic on it. Not that I have anamorphic lenses, but you can shoot anamorphic up to 6K. You have 4K options that have 422 10-bit internal recording, which is just amazing. A lot of the newer cameras and some Sony cameras that are out at the moment, you need to use like an Atomos, Inferno, or the Ninja to actually be able to record 10-bit. With the GH5, I can record internally. If I want to record 4K 60p, then I would need it because that only records 8-bit on the GH5. But at the same time, it's such a fantastic deal, and I absolutely love my GH5. I want to talk about some of the pros first, and then we'll move on to the cons. So a few things about the pros of the GH5. For one of the biggest features that I absolutely love about the GH5 is the IBIS, the in-body image stabilization. It is out of the world. I love it. It's fantastic. Like, I used to have to carry a tripod around with my GH3 and stuff because it would be just too shaky. With this camera, I can actually literally use it handheld. I only use it handheld. I used to actually have a gimbal. I used to have a Xeon Crane 2, but I couldn't find myself using it. But the battery's actually depleted. Had to get the batteries replaced, and then I ended up selling it because I ended up just loving the portability of my GH5, being able to handheld stuff and just being able to get that smooth kind of footage. If I want to get extra smooth footage, one of the tricks you guys can do is shoot slow motion. So shoot 50p or above, and then you can slow it down in post, and then just keep it running for a couple of seconds and then cut, and then you got this really nice smooth footage. Another thing is obviously the 4K, the 1080 as well. I end up shooting a lot of my videos on 1080p, which is fantastic. I find it really sharp and crisp as well, and I'm not finding necessary for me to shoot 4K and then down scale later to 1080. I'm finding the 1080 footage to be fantastic, so that's another benefit. You also get 2 card slots, which is fantastic. UHS 2, which is really cool. In fact, the inbuilt audio in the actual GH5 is also great. It's actually usable. Sure, it's not great if you're outdoors and stuff because of the wind and stuff, but indoors, it's not actually that bad. I'm actually shooting with a Rode Mic Pro at the moment, but I have shot just with the inbuilt audio inside, and it's usable. It's definitely usable. One of the other features I want to mention is the battery life. Coming from the GH3 and the GH5 actually have the same batteries, which is fantastic. The batteries generally last for about 2 hours, a good hour and a half with 4K, but generally speaking, I get a good 2-hour life with them. I can take 3 batteries and I'm set for the day, really, which is just fantastic. Now let's just talk about the cons for a moment. What would be some of the cons with the GH5? Obviously, there's some limitations. So I would say some of the limitations I find with the GH5, probably the biggest thing that a lot of people have talked about is the autofocus. The autofocus, guys, unfortunately, is not reliable at all. I'm shooting on a manual lens at the moment, and for the most part, I only shoot manual because autofocus is just not reliable at all. They did release a couple of updates, Panasonic, but unfortunately, it just didn't fix it. Contrast autofocus is just not up there. It's not up to par with the dual phase autofocus that Canon offers. It's not up to par with Sony's autofocus system. It's just not there, sadly. But if you don't need autofocus, guys, this should not even be a con. Realistically, you guys should be shooting manual, but I can understand if you are doing vlogs like myself, if I move away too much, or if I move too close, I'll get out of focus and my GH5 won't be able to pick it up. I'll have to manually get back into focus. So that's one of the things to keep in mind if you're looking at the GH5. Another thing I would say, I can't really think of anything else, to be honest, to say faults about the GH5. I honestly find it to be a fantastic camera. I would say at least the rubber handling, it's worn off on me a couple times. That's one thing that's always kind of got to me. But besides that, there isn't a lot of cons, guys. I mean, considering the price that you can get it for and the other cameras on the market that it's competing with, the GH5 would be a no-brainer. It takes fantastic stills. There's a 20 megapixel sensor. It's just great. I take all my stills on the GH5. I do all my video work, time lapses, anything like that. The GH5 is very, very capable of taking care of those needs, photography and video work. So I definitely highly recommend this camera, guys. If you guys are in the market for a new camera, I would definitely consider the Panasonic GH5 for your next camera. Is it worth it after 2 years? Is the camera still relevant in 2019? Yes, it is, 100%. The mirrorless camera, the Micro Four Thirds system is definitely still in the market. It's still doing really good, guys. Honestly, if you need like a low budget kind of camera and in the sub kind of $2,000 mark, I would highly recommend you get this camera, guys. It is fantastic. You will not be disappointed. You can definitely get some cinematic shots out of it, and I highly recommend it. And that's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. My little review, my 2-year review of the GH5. I will kind of show some footage as well so you guys can have a look and see what I've kind of shot with it since I've owned it. Alright, guys. I'll catch you guys in the next video. See you later.